After a long time, the Lord of those servants came and settled accounts with them. So he who had received 5 talents came and brought 5 other talents, saying, Lord, you delivered to me 5 talents. Look, I have gained 5 more talents besides them. His Lord said, well done, good and faithful servant. You were faithful over a few things. I will make you ruler over many things. Enter into the joy of the Lord. He also, who had received 2 talents, came and said, Lord, you delivered to me 2 talents. Look, I have gained 2 more talents besides them. His Lord said to them, well done, good and faithful servant. You have been faithful over a few things. I will make you ruler over many things. Enter into the joy of the Lord. This is so powerful. Then he who had received 1 talent came and said, Lord, I knew you to be a hard man, reaping where you have not sown, and gathering where you have not gathered seed. And I was afraid, and I went and hid your talent in the ground. Look, this is your talent. I'm giving it back to you. Now pay really close attention to what I'm about to tell you. Here are 3 servants that the Lord has taken and put in properties that He owns. This is a representation of a kingdom principle that Jesus is trying to develop inside of us. He's trying to take these servants to stewardship. He has understood their giftings. Jesus understands the gift that He's put inside of you. He knows why He created you. He's waiting for you to discover why you've been created. Once you understand your gifting, once you see why you've been called into the kingdom, once you see why you were created for a season such as this, the Lord is going to take you from where you are. He's going to place you into a place where you were designed to be. And He's going to allow the giftings that God has put inside of you to be expressed in that place. So that your goods that He has given you, nothing we have belongs to us. We understand that as servants. The goods that He has placed inside of you can be developed in the land and in the region and in the area where He's placing you. You begin to multiply. Your gifts begin to bear fruit. And what you started out with becomes greater. Once you understand what it is God has put inside of you. That passion you have to help people in the area of finances, perhaps in the area of housing, perhaps in the area of teaching people, training people. Perhaps you're a teacher. Perhaps you're a mother. Whatever it is, you have a special gift that no one else has, that once you release it back to the Lord, will multiply in others. Now, these servants, 2 of the 3, took their gifts and multiplied it back to the master. And he says, well done, good and faithful servant. Enter into the joy of your Lord. You see, the Bible says the joy of the Lord is our strength. It's our comfort. It's our peace. The joy of the Lord separates us from the circumstances and the trials and the tribulations of this earth and places us in the kingdom peace of knowing who we are, who we serve, the gifts that God has given us, and prosperity begins to abound in that atmosphere of peace. You know, the scientists tell us that peace is a place where things can mature. Joy is a place where all kinds of good things can prosper. So when you enter into the joy of the Lord, you enter into an environment that is conducive for prosperity. The joy of the Lord is your strength. I hear so many people say today, I am so stressed out. I am working so hard, and it gets me so uptight, so anxious. And Jesus is saying, enter into the joy prepared for you by the Lord. You see, the gifts that God has placed inside of us produce prosperity without stress, without anxiety, but with the joy and the peace of the Lord. That's the difference between the kingdom of this world and the kingdom of God. 2 of the 3 servants understood those principles. They were good disciples. They had learned from their master well. But the one servant said something that you need to understand. He said, I knew you to be a hard man, reaping where you have not sown, gathering where you have not planted seed. Now, what you think you know hinders you from seeing who He really is. You see, these 2 servants were not blocked by what they thought Jesus or their servant or their king was. You see, they didn't have a preconceived idea of who their master was. They had been trained by Him without any preconceived ideas, whether He was hard, severe, reaped where He hadn't sown. None of those thoughts entered their mind. They were given a task to do, and they did it. The 3rd servant said, okay, I know something about this king. This king is a hard man. He does things that are not good in his understanding, you see. The servant had this kind of understanding. That kind of understanding is a hindrance to moving into the things of the kingdom. He was the 3rd servant who had the same opportunity to prosper as the other 2. But because of what he thought he knew, he was reduced